Hello, and welcome to the podcast So Casted. I'm your host, Tara Lockett. Today we have a very special guest. He goes by the name of Dead Space Dash. Please welcome Dead Space Dash.
What's up?
It is definitely a pleasure to have you here on the show. Thank you for your time, and thank you for allowing yourself to share the type of wisdom that you obtain within yourself. The topic we will discuss tonight is take responsibility. I understand it is a very, very heavy topic. I'll ask 3 questions and give our guest the chance to answer and share his wisdom. But first, I'd like you to tell us a little bit about yourself, Mr. Dash.
So I go by Dead Space Dash. It's my stage name. I make music. I'm a creative. I make clothes, production, stuff like that. Do a little bit of creative. Kind of dedicated my life to creativity. So, yeah, it's a little bit.
You're a pretty creative type young man, and so tell us, where can we find or locate any of the products that you produce and things that you do, where we can find you?
So Instagram, TikTok, just at Dead Space Dash, and on any music platforms, anything like that, it's just Dead Space Dash, 3 words.
And what type of clothing line do you have?
So right now I'm doing streetwear, and eventually I want to work my way into cut and sewing. I'm like currently learning how to like sew and, figure out how to do patterns and stuff like that. So we'll step into fashion eventually.
That sounds pretty fun and creative.
Yeah, it's cool.
For those who don't know what streetwear is, can you explain what that is?
Streetwear is just basically like, it's kind of in the name. It's just like everyday wear, stuff that you wear when you leave the house, when you run errands, when you go out, and just not trying to dress up too crazy, but you still want to have style. It's just on the go wear.
A little bit different. Yet I say everything comes right back around, kind of like I seen someone in bell bottoms the other day, and I just paused.
Yeah,
But that's their style.
yeah. That's kind of how time goes. Fashion always seems to like bring back the past and re-innovate it. So it's cool to see.
And where can someone find your clothing?
So currently, right now, it's still in process. You got the first sample. So once we get another sample, do shooting and stuff like that, then I'll be able to have a website that I can post all the stuff to. And I currently need to build like a hub so people can know what we're about. But it's in process.
Perfect. Y'all heard that. It's in process. So get yourselves ready to support and locate the production of Mr. Dead Space Dash. We're going to go ahead and get into those questions that I said that I had. I have 3 of them.
Okay.
Are you ready for them?
Mm-hmm.
The first question. The topic is take responsibility. Why should people, or humans per se, take responsibility?
I think, it's kind of, we're all existing simultaneously. And I think, people aren't responsible for everything that's happened, and unfortunately, I think people often, are upset at the fact that even if you've been through something that was out of your control, it's still your responsibility to bear. And a lot of the times people try to escape from that, and so just really being self-aware is a big one. And then just taking the time to understand, what happened and how it cannot affect other people, because it can really affect people in your life that have done nothing to you and want nothing but good for you. But if, you got this cloud of the past in your face, despite how hard and traumatic things can be, then, it's almost hard to be fulfilled by the future.
Very, very good answer. And it's kind of like what we covered in the very first episode, which is conquering our fears.
Mm.
One of the things that you do have to do is conquer that fear, because if you don't, the fear will conquer you.
Yeah.
The second question. What are we as a human race responsible for anyway?
Man, that's a big one. In my personal opinion, like I don't know. Run that question by me one more time.
Sure, no problem. What are we as humans, as a human race? What are we responsible for anyway?
That's so loaded because it's like I think everyone's responsibility varies. You know, um, I think that comes with just understanding yourself and knowing what your responsibilities are. You know, I think for me personally, I can only speak from that experience. It's like it's like you're responsible for your gifts. You're responsible for, you know, kind of the people in your life. It's like, you know, you're kind of doing this life thing for the first time. So it's like, I don't know. It's whatever you feel like, you know. Like, I think we all have this like code that knows, like, we know what we're responsible for, you know. Like, you have this responsibility of whatever talent you hone, and, you know, and expressing that. I think we're really just kind of here to express ourselves. You know, we kind of get thrusted into this environment that we didn't necessarily choose to be in. We just kind of got thrown in. And, you know, I think the more you explore yourself and explore like who you are as a person, and then you'll start learning what those responsibilities are. And you have to suck it up. Yeah.
Handle them and take care of them as best as you can.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you say it along that pathway, because the next question that I would ask you, it is in your opinion, how does a person or a nation or a human race, because it really is about humanity, and this show is about mental healing.
Mm.
In your opinion, how does a person who has never taken responsibility nor shown how do they take charge? Excuse me, how do they take charge?
You know, I think it's a lot of people are receptive to like criticism, and like you have to really find people that you trust that, you know, have a like, maybe in your opinion, like a good experience of life, and just trusting that sometimes you're not always right, and sometimes like it's like you don't get to experience yourself. You do every day, but it's like you don't get to experience yourself through someone else's eyes. So it's like if I go to a restaurant and I say that the service was bad, but someone else says that the service was really good, then it's like you can get prideful and be like, well, someone told me that our service was good, so clearly we're doing good and you're wrong. It's like, you know, being able to say like, okay, like maybe there is something that I can do, you know, and maybe both opinions are right. You know, maybe someone experienced this part of me and they loved it, and someone experienced another part of me and they didn't like it. And, you know, they're both true in a sense. And maybe that's something that I need to work on, because it's like we all have flaws, but we all have things we're really good at. So it's like once you start learning those things and you start realizing like, okay, yeah, it's not like not every experience is going to be the same with me, then it's like, okay, maybe there's things that I can, you know, fix about myself that I don't like, or things that I'm not aware of that I do that might, you know, really hurt people in the end, you know.
Well, that unawareness exists in all of us, and
Mm-hmm.
so I like I like the fact that you understood that everyone is at different levels,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And for me lately, it's been a matter of patience and grace. And if I can give that to myself, then surely I can give it to others.
Yeah.
And so that's basically what that's about. Um, is there anything else that you'd like to add to this before we close out?
Um, you know, I think for anyone that may like kind of be looking for that part of themselves, and it's like I think I have a lot of friends that feel like, you know, maybe they're stuck, or, you know, it's like a friend made a good point. It was like when you're in high school and college, just kind of everyone's at the same level. And then when you leave, it's like everyone goes at their own pace in life, and you look around and see people, you know, maybe doing better, or in your opinion better, or might have something that you want, or you're aspiring. And I think the biggest thing is, and this is like me talking to myself, is like don't compare your don't compare yourself to other people, even your even your faults, where it's like, well, at least I'm not like this person. Because I think I think it's still comparison. You know, just don't compare. Just own your life and own where you're at. And, you know, it could be worse or you could be like so and so down the street, but like you don't know what might happen with that so and so. That so and so might be surpassing where you're at, you know, and that so and so that you hold at such a high regard might be below. So it's like, I think try not to compare yourself, your glories and your failures to anyone. Like it's, we don't get, you know, we haven't done this before. So it's like life. And so it's like, just try to stay in your lane and try to appreciate where you're at and what you're doing, you know?
Yeah, I know. I agree. And that's a good place to start to take responsibility is start where you are. Get a chance to understand who you are and gain and learn your self-awareness. And as we talked about in the first show, getting rid of fear is the first step. Once you get rid of fear, you get the opportunity to gain the courage that you need to go forward. I'd like to thank my guest for coming on the show, Mr. Dead Space Dash. I appreciate you giving me your time. And until then, take care.